Good evening again, Morning Chapel, the Rock Church, downtown Fort Worth. We're certainly happy to have you back with us for this watch party experience. Typically, this is Wow Wednesday for our evening Bible study, but we're taking it a step further as we move forward into this pandemic. In the midst of it, there are a lot of things going on with the body of Christ. People within the body of Christ, people all around us are dealing with all kinds of things, and we're going to talk today. We have a special guest today, one of our wonderful members of this great church, Dr. Bernice King-Strong, and she has a background, a plethora of experience in the area of counseling and education, administration, and we're going to talk from the vantage point of grief, but in this case, healthy grief. Good grief, and how we can process different things as it relates to grief, because a lot of people have lost loved ones in the midst of this pandemic. And so I'm going to defer to Dr. Strong. Of course, I want to thank you for being here with us and coming to share and being willing to come and share with us. And first of all, I want to ask you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in terms of counseling.
Very well. I've been in the educational system for 3 decades. And in those 30 plus years, I spent 17 years doing counseling at all levels, including post-secondary education. And in helping people through individual crises or having group sessions with individuals, there have been various life situations, and grief has been one of those things that I help people through. I'm presently focusing more on enhancing my skills and knowledge in the area of grief counseling specifically.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. And so we want to really kind of segue from what you just shared with us to just defining grief. What is grief? I know I said loss a little bit earlier, but just help us with a basic understanding of grief.
Grief actually is an emotion experienced by someone that has been subjected to a loss of something or someone. We all are familiar with bereavement. Well, bereavement is a form of grief. Bereavement is related to the loss of a loved one or something. But there are other types of losses that cause us to go into grief. For example, a loss could be loss of a job, end of a marriage, loss of a situation in your life. One example might be loss of your housing. So grief takes on many forms, and we're here today to discuss the process of grief and coping strategies that can help us grieve in a healthy way.
Wonderful. Now, since we're all in this global pandemic together, all of our lives have been altered. For the most part, we're doing things differently. We have to do things differently. We've got social distancing going on. We've got wearing a mask going on, limited travel, even detachment from the church building in a real sense. I've got members calling even as of yesterday saying, well, when do you think we'll be able to get back to worship, because I really miss my church. I really miss the fellowship. And so I said, well, what coping strategies do we have for persons who are experiencing that type of grief, and also the kind of grief where they've lost a loved one and they cannot attend the funeral service because now we're restricted to, I think it's 10 people, and it's graveside, and so people are really having a difficult time with bringing closure and walking through the process. So if you can help us with that.
The coronavirus pandemic has caused us to grieve many things, and we're grieving loss of freedom to move around, grieving the loss of connectedness to friends, loved ones, even colleagues on the job. So we're grieving so many things simultaneously, and we don't know, or we don't have the tools to figure out what exactly am I grieving and what do I do? What is the starting point? So I'd say the loss of our normalcy has caused us to grieve. Just our normal lives. We don't know when we will get back to some sense of normalcy. And when the pandemic is over, and I believe that it will be over, then what will our new normal be like for us? So one thing to do in order to cope, well, first, I use prayer. I encourage other believers, activate your praying power. You'll be surprised how much prayer gives us comfort and how God comforts us and restores us in the midst of a lot of chaos, because that's what we're in, chaos during this pandemic. Also, most notably, the fact that we can't be around our loved ones to gain support really causes a lot of anxiety, loneliness, and abandonment. So reach out, support one another through telephone, Zoom, letters, whatever mechanism you may want to use. And if you know someone that's grieving, reach out to them. Don't wait for them to call you. And I encourage individuals during this pandemic, don't shut yourself off from others. You may be unable to physically connect with other people, but call them or make some contact with other people. Do not close yourself off. And one strategy is to not overwhelm a person that's grieving. Sometimes it's just not possible for people in a grieving process to take on all the attention that sometimes we give them. So be cognizant of a person's grief process and what stage they're in, and take a cue from the person that's grieving.
Wow, excellent, excellent. How long does grief last, or is there a time period for grief?
There's no timetable for grief. You can't put a number of months or years on the process of grief. Grief can last from several months, several years, or a lifetime.
Wow.
And grief has a way of coming back. You know, you were past one stage and then you circle back to that same stage. There's also the residual emotion effect. For example, someone else's grief may trigger your grief.
Wow.
In terms of what you lost. It could be years past, but then you find yourself in a stage of grief once again. And with the pandemic, grief is all around us.
Yes.
Everyone is grieving everything. So there are people that can't leave their homes. So for us, we can ask, what can I do for you? Can I purchase groceries for you? Go get your medicine? Doing something often helps us all. When we're grieving, do something for someone else. You feel just a bit better. Lots of grief will come after the pandemic is over. We're not out of the woods. Once the pandemic has passed, we're going to see grief manifest itself in various forms. It could be anger, resentment, guilt, and regret. So I say that some of the worst is yet to come.
Wow. I heard you mention the term new normalcy, which is really helping us, because we keep hearing over and over again, Dr. Strong, that things will never be the way that they were. And a lot of people keep saying, I'll be glad when we get back to where we were. And I keep saying, no, actually we're about to be pushed forward into a place called new. Everything is going to be new. The way we handle things, the way we approach things is going to be new. So after this loss that we are experiencing, the loss of all these things, and some people have even experienced loss of loved ones, how do we maybe embrace this new normalcy? How do we embrace that?
As human beings, we do have resiliency. Our minds and our thoughts help us to move forward. I call it move forward because you don't move on. You can never go back. You have to move forward. But you can never undo the loss that you experience. So what we will experience when we get back to a more normal, so to speak, way of life, going to church, visiting our sanctuaries, going to buy groceries, going to entertainment or whatever, it is new because it doesn't resemble the old. So we will have a new normalcy. We don't know what that looks like, what it will entail, but it will be new. So our normal in terms of returning to normal life will be a new normal for us.
Wow, thank you so very much. It reminds me of when a personal experience that Tanisha and I had. We experienced the tragic loss of our 2-year-old daughter. And I was wondering, and this was in 2005, and so I was wondering why Tanisha was writing so much, journaling and just writing. And that was her way to embrace and try to understand this new normalcy that we were experiencing after such a tragic loss. And it was great the way she did it. And of course I did it a different way, I guess through preaching and teaching and sharing. And that's how I expended the process of grief. So how do we effectively deal or communicate with people who are grieving? Because we've got all kinds of, just I guess more or less language that we use. When people are grieving, we try to morph them over into our grief experiences, and we'll say things, quote unquote, well, the Lord understands, and this was the will of God, and sometimes that's as far as the East is from the West, when people are going through a grief process. So can you give us some appropriate things that we can share? Because I think we're legitimate in wanting to help and wanting to be there for a person, but I don't know whether or not many of us know how to operate in the ministry called presence. You
effectively communicate with people that are grieving, first of all, through listening to them. Let them tell their story. You offer them information and knowledge, because knowledge is power. Many people, if they can identify and acknowledge the stages of grief, identify what stage am I in and what do I do, that's very helpful. Because you don't have to be a therapist many times to help people through the grieving process unless it is severe and they can't get out of process and they're stuck. But a friend, a pastor, a lay person can help us through our grief process. It's acknowledging the grief, dealing with it, writing or journaling is very good. Doing recordings of fond memories of the loved one that was lost. Looking through photos, making new photos, making new family traditions. And these types of coping strategies can involve all family members. Even the very young children can participate in such things like this. But just remember that there are so many things that we can do that we have at our disposal that we have not tapped into our brain to say, oh, this is very helpful for me.
Wow.
When you've been in situations before, negative situations, and you've been able to garnish the strength to get out of that situation, you did something for yourself. Well, the same thing is similar when you're dealing with grief. There are things that you can do for yourself to make you feel better, because grieving is something that hurts us. It's painful physically and psychologically. No one wants to feel sad or angry or have regrets. It's not a good feeling inside of us. And as humans, well, Americans, we don't like to feel bad. We want to feel joyous and have a good time and feel good all the time. So grief is not something that we talk about. Right. It's not something that we want to feel in our life, but it's there and we have to deal with it.
Wow. I want to encourage all of you while you're watching this watch party to like this video, to share it on your pages, and to also in the comment section, just if you have questions or any kind of statement that you want to make during this session, I want you just to type it in. You may have a question that we're not covering. You may want to talk about something that you've already experienced and that we can address, because I believe that we're going to have a follow-up to this session, and maybe we can address it in our follow-up session. So please do that, Morning Chapel and friends and other Facebook associates that are here. We love you, and we want this to now become a ministry, not only to those who are watching, but a ministry to others who are going through a grief process out of this world right now. And they need to be in somewhat what we would call a group therapy session and say, can anybody help me with this situation? I'm about to lose my mind. I don't know what to do. I don't have anybody to talk to. And so this becomes a vehicle for you to address it in. And you don't have to tell everything about what's going on, but just kind of share a question or make a statement or a comment in that comment section. I heard you mention, Dr. Strong, that we may not be at the place where we need psychological help when we're going through the grief process, but I want you to kind of help us to see when it might be time for you to say, ooh, I may need some help beyond my friends, beyond my family, even beyond my pastor. My pastor may not be a trained clinical person who can help me to unpack all of the various things that are going on with me, while he or she may be a wonderful spiritual counselor, confidant, helper, but now it's time for me to seek professional help. When is that time?
I'm glad you brought that up. You know, some people get themselves out of the doldrums of sadness and they move through grief and they make it through and everything's fine. They use whatever support systems they were able to use and in the resources they were able to find, they did it themselves and they moved on. When you see a person that is in such despair, both physically and psychologically, and they cannot function to do just daily basic tasks, that's one indicator that they need some help. If they're experiencing pain, illness of unknown origin, that's a key indicator. Another key indicator is if a person experiences depression, severe anxiety, to the point that they're crippled. They can't get out of bed, they can't eat, they can't think, they're in a constant state of confusion. You need to seek help. And if your state of mind lasts for months, 12 months for sure, you need professional help and should seek that help. Also, I want to encourage family members, colleagues, church members, if you see a person that seems withdrawn and they are not seeking help, please go to him or her and try to assist them. Sometimes people don't know I need professional help, and if they think I need to see someone, they don't know how to access the resources. So we need to be ever diligent in watching people, looking for signs that this person is grieving at a point where they're not moving forward, they are in severe distress, and they need professional help.
Wonderful.
But we do it, in a way that is a Christian manner. We're going to beat them over the head, but go with them in a loving spirit and support them along that process.
Yeah. And most of you who are watching us, being that you are on a watch party, you're on social media, you probably have some sense of technology, but there are others who don't have a sense of technology. They're not watching this on Facebook. And so we need to be able today, as we have this quote unquote group therapy, to say, well, what are the stages of grief? A lot of people don't even know what the stages of grief are. I've counseled people who did not know that there were actual stages of grief. Now, they were angry, but they did not know that that was a part of the grief process. So since we have Dr. Strong here with us, if she can just help us and point out those stages so that we can write it down. Now, you can Google it, but now for those who are not Google friendly, they don't have a computer, they can't Google it. So we might need to take this information back to them and say, oh, well, these are the steps, these are the stages of grief. Dr. Strong, help us.
The stages of grief were identified by the late Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. There were 5 stages. And there's been an additional stage added in later years, but she identified anger, bargaining, denial, acceptance, and the last stage is meaning, making meaning, which was added by David KESSLER, of your loss. And what are you going to do about it? And in an upcoming another series, we'll unpack those stages and go into detail as to what they mean. But I will say the stages are not linear. We go through one stage, another stage. We find ourselves back at our initial stage and wonder, I've been here before. Why am I back in this stage? The stages of grief are not linear. They are circular, if you will.
Wow.
And you can stay in one stage much longer than you did in another stage of grief. But there are anger, bargaining, denial. Some people feel guilt. And the last stage was acceptance, according to Kubler-Ross, but KESSLER has added another stage, and that is meaning as you're processing grief.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that helpful information. Do children grieve? And how do we encourage children when they're going through grief?
Children do in fact grieve. However, we must be mindful that children grieve in a different manner than adults. And often children's grief goes unrecognized or not acknowledged. Now, children may grieve one moment through sadness or sorrow, and they may be playful another moment. That's just the nature of children. And the National Alliance for Grieving Children has given lots of techniques and coping strategies of how to deal with children that are grieving. And I'd like to share some with you, just a few of them.
Please do.
And you can look up the National Alliance for Grieving Children on the website. Now, grieving children need to know that they are going to be taken care of. They need reassurance. And one thing, we need to talk to the children about what happened, not in great detail, but at a level that is consistent with their age and development, so that they can understand. Children need to be told the truth. Be honest with children about the loss of either a parent, grandparent, loved one, whatever, because children are very resilient and they can find out the truth themselves. So always be honest with children. Be patient with children, because they will revisit the same questions multiple times, asking you over and over what happened. That is their attempt to make sense of what is going on around them in their environment. Have children do writing or make recordings. Very young children love making recordings about fond memories of the person that is deceased, or maybe their pet that's deceased. As we mentioned earlier, grief comes when there is a significant loss of something that you love in your life. So children do grieve, but in a different way than adults grieve. And their grief process is different, and they should be treated differently when we're helping them through their grief process than what we do with an adult person.
Wonderful. Is there a hotline, if you will, of grief resources that we can direct people to? If you can't find a loved one or someone in your church or anybody, and you just want to reach out and say, I need help with what I'm dealing with, or you want to hold it in some type of context of confidentiality, and you don't want them to know, and you want to reach out, Dr. Strong, is there any place that we can call or
Yes,
seek
there
help?
is. There are a number of places.
Identify those places for us.
Yes. We have grief recovery in Tarrant County. The person that is in charge of that, her name is Betsy Poss. Debbie Poss is her name.
Okay.
And I can give her number and where she can be reached. Their services are free. They have individual counseling, group counseling for every possible issue, and it's located off 820, so it's not very far. We have online services for teens and adults. You contact online counseling, they set you up with a counselor to meet your needs, whatever you're going to. And as I mentioned before, our National Alliance for Grieving Children, the headquarters is located in Lubbock, Texas, but you go on their website as well, you just Google it, and they will direct you to resources in your area, your locale where you're living. And that's just to name a few. We're very fortunate that Tarrant County has many resources for grieving as well as other situations that people can access. Some are on a sliding fee scale, of course, but many are free services. You just need to know that those resources are there for you. And never forget, friends, books and libraries, and our pastors are there to support us when we're going through grief.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, you are launching, or you already launched, perhaps a podcast experience, and that is something that Dr. Strong is doing in her effort to help a lot of people who need help and encouragement. And so, can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
I sure will. Now, my podcast about understanding grief will air the second week of June.
Okay.
These podcasts are bi-weekly podcasts, and we have various different topics we'll be discussing. We'll have medical professional people there, people from religious organizations, and the attempt is to help individuals, groups, as well as communities deal with grief during this pandemic that we are experiencing. So you can tune in to anchor.fm or Spotify to catch the podcast. Remember, the second week of June, and the podcast will run every other week.
Wow, thank you so very much. Now, this has been a wonderful segment, and I want to encourage you again to type in the comment section your questions, your comments, say amen, like it, and share it, because these are things that we don't typically talk about, and we need to have some healthy dialogue about our grieving process and how do we walk through that process. So please, again, thank you, Dr. Strong, for being our guest and sharing this information with us, because certainly this has been not only helpful to persons who are watching, it's helpful to every person, including me. It's helpful as I try to encourage others and direct people to resources that can help them continually. Thank you again, and we want you, Morning Chapel, to know that we love you and that we're praying for you, those of you who have experienced any kind of loss in your families. We want you to know that we are here for you. Give us a call. Pastoral Care is calling every week or every other week. Someone from the Pastoral Care team. I'm calling various persons. And so we are here for you. God bless you is our prayer. And we hope to see you again in our next segment. Yes, Dr. Strong, so give us some of your final comments that you would like to make as we close this session. And then I will offer a word of prayer for persons who are experiencing grief right now.
My final comments would be to say grief is not linear, Everyone grieves in their own individual time and their own unique way. I would encourage us to practice, however, self-care, meaning eat, drink water, sleep. It's important to stay hydrated for our immune system and be prayerful. God sustains us through so many things, and we should not underestimate the power of praying to our Heavenly Father.
Thank you so much. Let us have a little prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we thank you. We praise you for this segment today. We thank you for those who have been comforted. We thank you for those who are in need of comforting, God. We pray your blessings upon all the families that are watching via watch party today, God. We thank you now, God, for covering us and sustaining us. Even in the midst of this pandemic, God, you have been a mighty good God. We thank you, Lord, now for peace that surpasses all understanding, keeping our minds and our hearts stayed upon you. Thank you for the Morning Chapel family, the Rock Church. We thank you, Lord, for all of the others who are watching now via Facebook, God. We love you, we praise you, and we thank you. We pray blessings now upon every life. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.